Hey everyone, and welcome to Masonzero MTG, or welcome back to Masonzero MTG. As I try to do for every set, I'm going to talk about some of my favorite potential cards for Cube from the upcoming Lost Caverns of Ixalan set. There is some premium removal, some powerful creatures, and more choices for popular Cube slots. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my picks. Bitter Triumph is the latest in a line of Doomblade variants. This one is the most similar to Infernal Grasp, but asks you to pay 3 life instead of 2, or to discard a card, and it can destroy a creature or a planeswalker instead of just a creature. Nothing super crazy here, but it's an efficient and flexible removal spell, which is always nice to have more of. Speaking of removal, Get Lost is incredibly good. Fateful Absence has been a solid card, and Get Lost is even more flexible, destroying a creature, enchantment, or planeswalker for just 2 mana. The downside is that your opponent gets 2 map tokens, which lets them pay a mana and sack the map to have a creature explore. It's a reasonable balance, but the removal being so flexible is really great. Oh, and important to note, map tokens can only be activated as a sorcery, so your opponent can't use them as a combat trick against you. Malcolm Alluring Scoundrel is a new 2-drop flyer with a great ability. Flash and Flying are super useful keywords, of course, but then whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you put a chorus counter on him, then draw a card and discard a card. The 4th time this happens, you get to cast the discarded card for free. I've seen a few people talking about putting in this card for Suspicious Stowaway, which I think makes sense. I love that the Stowaway is unblockable, but removing a double-faced card from your cube is always a plus, because those can be pretty annoying. I've also seen it compared to Looter Ilcore, which is also a fair consideration for an upgrade. Again, I like that it's unblockable, but this card does do a lot more. Trumpeting Carnosaur brings some excellent flexibility to the red 6-drop slot, something that has historically been occupied by Inferno Titan. This card is a 7/6 with Trample for 6, which is a great start. And then when it enters the battlefield, you discover 5, so you can get a free spell or a draw that costs 5 mana or less. The best part is the flexibility, allowing you to pay 3 and discard it to deal 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. When it comes to 6-drops, the biggest downside is obviously getting it in your starting hand or getting stuck on lands. This card helps avoid this issue. It also makes it more appealing for an aggressive red deck that maybe tops out at 3 or 4 mana to run a 6-drop, since it can be discarded to deal direct damage. Sentinel of the Nameless City has some good stats for the mana cost, which, again, is a wonderful start. A 3/4 for 3 with Vigilance is nice, and whenever it enters or attacks, you make a map token. These are somewhat useful, since they let you pay 1 mana to explore. It's a good attacker, a good blocker, and can get bigger while providing you with some card advantage. It's all upside, even though it's not super flashy. All the new Restless lands are great, and combined with the original Zendikar creature lands, you can create your perfect creature land base in your cube. The Prairie, the Anchorage, and the Vents seem to be upgrades over their Zendikar land counterparts, or at least more interesting and versatile. However, Creeping Tar Pit seems better than Restless Reef, and between Raging Ravine and Restless Ridgeline, it kinda depends on your preference, but I would maybe keep Raging Ravine for the fact that it gets bigger every turn you attack with it. In any case, it's awesome to have 2 options for each color combination now, so you can make your ideal land base. We're not done with removal yet, because Molten Collapse is here to replace Terminate if you haven't replaced Terminate already. But it has also come to give Bedevil a run for its money. Bedevil will always destroy an artifact, creature, or planeswalker, but for just 1 less mana, Molten Collapse only kills a creature or planeswalker. But if you Descended, you can choose both modes, the other of which is to destroy a 1 or 0 mana non-creature, non-land permanent. So basically this is going to be a mana rock like a Mox, and occasionally some other cards, so it's less flexible and you have to sack a fetch land or something to trigger it. I think because of these facts, it's better in a more powerful cube, but lower power cubes should probably keep Bedevil in. I don't know, I'm having a hard time evaluating this one. What do you guys think? Bolome Del Prido is another great choice for your sacrifice theme. Free sacrifice outlets are always something to keep an eye on, and as a 2-mana 2/1, the stats are pretty good to get started attacking right away. The immediate comparison, of course, is going to be Carrion Feeder, which is a 1-mana creature that can't block and only lets you sacrifice creatures. For an extra white mana, Bolome gets 1 extra starting power and the ability to also sacrifice artifacts. This may or may not be useful in your cube, but I think in the right environment, it gets a lot better than Carrion Feeder in a sacrifice strategy. Imagine running this in a black-white deck alongside something like Smothering Tithe. That might get pretty crazy pretty fast. Not to discount Carrion Feeder though, it can sack itself to itself, which can be good in niche situations. So consider this, but it's not a strict upgrade. But what is a strict upgrade is this next card. Step aside Kitesail Freebooter because there's a new flying exile creature in town. Deep Cavern Bat is similar. It's a 2-mana creature with flying that looks at an opponent's hand and exiles a card from it. But there are several key differences. Kitesail Freebooter has 1 additional toughness, but Deep Cavern Bat only gets better from there. It has lifelink, first of all. Next, it lets you exile any non-land card from the opponent's hand, whereas Kitesail Freebooter only lets you get a non-land non-creature. In the vast majority of cases, Deep Cavern Bat is a much better card. If you're running the Freebooter, you should strongly consider running this card instead. Inti, Seneschal of the Sun, is a 2-mana 2/2 with a lot of aggressive text on it. Whenever you attack, you get to discard a card and put a counter on an attacking creature, also giving that creature trample. That's pretty solid as an aggressive 2-drop, but there is even more text. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards, you exile the top card of your library and can play that card until your next end step. I think this card is a lot more aggressive than a lot of the other red 2-drops commonly run in Cube, so you'll probably have a few choices for swaps. Because of the discard exile ability, this card gives access to a lot of cards from the top of your library, which really makes something like Direfleet Daredevil not that exciting anymore. Same with Robber of the Rich, although Robber is still good, it just doesn't give you the crazy combat advantage like Inti does. Then you have Felden Ronom Excavator, which is aggressive and gives you cards, but this card does a lot. It does so much. It makes cards like Faithless Looting and Lelia the Blade Reforged even better than they already are. There's just so many possibilities and synergies with this card that I think you can't help but run it. Okay, those are my top 10 cards for Cube from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, and it seems like these cards are generally agreed upon based on what I've read online. Normally I have some crazy card that's out of left field that works in one of my cubes and I make a case for it, and honestly there's just a lot of cards in this set that are clearly upgrades to existing cards. Okay, fine. I'll talk about one card. It's not even that crazy. It's Echoing Deeps, which is a pretty cool clone land that can turn into a dead creature land or a used fetch land or even an Urza's Saga. Not that out of left field, but pretty cool. Alright, anyways, that's it. See you next time and like the video if you enjoyed it.